So there's a politician in South Delhi who was standing for MP election at that time. And what he had done was he had figured out a way to hack my API and just like keep giving himself like 5 stars. He could just keep doing that. And I couldn't fix it during the elections. This person now is a big Bollywood actor. He was the house captain at the time. I had just joined school, and the way he used to punish us was that he would literally hang us with our kurta pajamas on the pegs where we used to hang our clothes. I think our schools and colleges and the education system does not do a very good job of nurturing people. Right? It does a very good job of teaching people and then testing people. Actually, when this F grading system was like, whoever was coming up with it, F meant feedback. Now we assume that it's failure. When you're telling someone that you failed at math, you've actually sucked out their potential love for math completely.
Yeah.
You've made them feel that, hey, I'm a failure at math, I'm not good at math. And that is a huge disservice to students when you're nurturing them.
Hi Pratham, welcome to AfterHours Season 4 powered by Pulse. It is a pleasure to meet you again, this time with the cameras on.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. And this is a great building, by the way. Good job.
Thanks, I didn't make this one.
I knew that.
You can say it's a nice office. The office is nice.
It's a nice office. Nice carpet, furniture,
Thanks.
all of that.
This art is my sister's. We can appreciate that also. We do everything in-house now.
All right.
We've placed one person who takes care of everything.
Of the art.
Anushka does the art, my mom does the interiors.
Like that. Okay, got it.
हाँ, मैं
Very
बेच
nice
लेती हूँ, ऐसे कर लेते हैं.
Got it. Do you guys fight?
अभी तक तो नहीं.
Good.
But because we don't interfere, which is hard to not do also, but no, not that much.
But if you're selling and if your client doesn't like the design of the art or the interiors.
But we don't sell the interiors. Now. The interiors are only of the main sort of building, the lobbies, and then some units we would sell bare shells, some would have like the walls and the cupboards and stuff done. So that's a standardized, templatized thing. We wouldn't, there's not much creative, unless they sign up to actually get interiors done by us, because my mom runs a separate firm, in which case the client will get exactly what they want because she'll tailor make it to that.
Got it. Yeah, I can't imagine working with my family, like at all.
But you're in the same field as your family. I'm very intrigued, and I was very intrigued, and I want to have this conversation with you in particular.
Okay.
Because we sit as two second-gen entrepreneurs.
Almost third.
Almost third
2.
for you. 2.5.
Let's put it that way.
2 for me. And I want to understand how is that for you? You say you don't think you can work with your family. Tell me why.
So I think with family, it's very easy for things to become emotional, right?
Fair.
And when there is a disagreement at work, it can stay a disagreement if two mature people are having that disagreement. But as soon as you take it home, then I think the veils come off and the tears come down, right?
Yeah.
And so for that reason, by the way, my parents work together a lot. And while I think that has helped their relationship, that has also stress tested their relationship a lot, right? Working together. And I wouldn't want the same for myself. I'd choose the easier path.
Fair
in
enough.
that sense. But what you mentioned earlier, it's great to be in the same field because you get all the good things that come with the family setup.
Yeah.
But you have to work with them.
Yeah, and I think you've managed to kind of sculpt that really well with what you've done with the Masters Union or Tetter. And, of course, there's LPU that is famously sort of known by everyone.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, first off, tell me some things you learned about entrepreneurship in Jalandhar or from Jalandhar. Give me some Jalandhar anecdotes.
So, Jalandhar doesn't have large companies. Like you can't name a single company that is operating out of Jalandhar, right? So essentially everyone's an entrepreneur. Especially the area that I live in, it's very highly inhabited by Banias. And they're all entrepreneurs.
Said Mr. Mittal.
Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Bansal, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Khaitan. That's what like our street looks like. And I think growing up around these people, this concept of trading and munafa and profit and, thinking about business in everything that you do is something that was inculcated in me, I think, right from the start. Of course, my parents were both entrepreneurs, but also the neighbors, the conversations that were happening with friends who were my age in my school.
Yeah.
Everything was about business. We never had heard of, let's say, like a BCG or a PwC. They don't exist in Jalandhar.
Yeah, poor consultants. They're just like, damn,
Yeah.
the folks in Jalandhar don't respect us only.
You know what the largest company in Jalandhar is?
No.
It's a very large company actually, but I only discovered them much later. It's called Sonalika Tractors.
Okay.
Right? They are the largest.
Suna lag raha hai kuch.
Haan, it's called International Tractors. It's a private company, but doing exceptionally well. But that's like the best you can say about Jalandhar. Right? And so everyone's a micro, mini, small and medium-sized entrepreneur / enterprise. And so just, I think through osmosis, right, being in that community, at least gave me that DNA, right, to always think of business in everything. So when I see a bathroom that is dirty, which we were just talking about earlier, I would see, okay, like what business can be created around this to fix this problem.
Yeah.
I think that I got from Jalandhar. Had I been from a larger city, which I spent most of my later life in, I noticed that a lot of people don't think about entrepreneurship as like the only option, right? They have these other options, and hence their proclivity to get into entrepreneurship decreases.
Yeah, I mean, technically making lassi in a washing machine is also like a great innovation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, so the fact that you can churn out more, that's also a great entrepreneurship move, if one is to say.
Absolutely.
At whatever scale that you're operating at.
You can make a lot of things in a washing machine.
Give me 5. These tall claims you're making, Chad.
No, not 5, but I could only think of one, but we will not for the public. It's a lassi ka bhai behan.
Acha. Okay, now tell me something that Abhi, you have now this DNA. Do you remember any instance where you heard people talk about like, you know, I'm doing this like business, whether it was small or large, and you thought, damn, why didn't I get this idea? Something that really like struck you.
I think in hindsight, all the ideas look so obvious, right? But one that was still small and I loved it and later became really big was Uber. So I went to college in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia was one of the first cities where Uber was launched, right? And I remember when I downloaded the app for the first time, it had a lot of bugs. And everyone was saying, this is not going to, I can just call a cab by doing this.
What year is this?
This is 2011, 2012.
Because, the thing is, when I was in London at the same time, and we used to have either black cabs or we had to like pre-book taxis.
Like with a phone number, etc.
With a phone number and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, most people don't even like remember that.
Yeah.
That time.
Midway cabs in London was mine.
Mine was like 233-144-1256. That phone number you have. No, but it was, when I saw Uber for the first time, I was like, dude, this is going to become really large. And I wish I had done this. And then I thought to myself that after I graduate, I'll go back to India and do it. But then, fate had something else planned, but I wish I really had. So that was one idea. Uber, it's one of those things when I remember I was waiting to go to a club at night on a Friday night or something. And everyone was trying to just hail a cab on the street.
Yeah.
And I came out of the restaurant and I'm like, guys, I got this. I got this. That's when I realized the power of that tool.
The Jalandhar flex.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we are from Bombay. We don't know about this,
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of other ideas. I think, when I was in college, and I don't know if this was true for your time as well, everything was about product companies.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is it a service company or a product company?
Yeah.
And people used to look down upon service companies. कि यार ये तो scalable नहीं है. इनका तो कुछ नहीं होगा. इसमें valuation नहीं मिलेगी. Service companies can't go public. This, that, right? And I lived with that myth for like 10 years after graduating. And I was hell-bent on only working in the product setup. Selling a product. Software or physical, but selling a product. And then very later I realized that the risk on doing a product is that much more, than it is glamorous. So I think that's one thing I wish I'd realized sooner, even though that was not your question.
No, but
that sparked that thought in me.
No, I agree. And that's the thing, right? We had so many stories of success that came out of, this era. Let's say, I think we're the same age. So around the same time that you and I were in university, whether it was UK or US or whatever, and we saw all of these success stories come
Facebook,
to life. Yeah.
Google, marketplaces, Airbnb.
We work.
Yeah. We all wanted to. They were the ones. When did Social Network come out? Around that same time, right? Or was it after college?
After. Because I remember that Instagram came out when I was still doing my masters or something like that.
So at that time, that was a sexy thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember, like, when I was at London Business School, I've actually, everywhere, whoever I meet, I narrate this story to, because I always find it just amazing, not just as a story to tell, but it stayed with me. We had a professor called Professor Narayan Nayak at LBS. And we had a class that was going on, which was about basically determining what is a good investment, right? So in the investment management sort of program. So he was telling us how to analyze sort of, companies that are listed, their performance, that. And he said, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. And that is the thought that you're going to take with you before you do the analysis that you are supposed to do for the next class, right? And he said that, there was a small village which was just by the shore. And the only profession that people had was actually fishing, right? So what they would do, of course, when you go out during high tide, you manage to catch a lot of fish. But it's also riskier because in those sort of, not very sturdy boats that they had, they would risk their lives. But it's just, again, risk and reward. You stood the chance of getting far more. And what had started happening was that these guys, they would go during high tide, and some of them would, of course, fall into the sea. But this very popular hammerhead shark, or a bunch of them, started pushing them to shore.
Okay.
So they fell, and the hammerhead shark would just kind of push them back to the shore. And everyone was like, wow, like, there was some sort of mystical angle to it. And they were like, oh, the gods have blessed us. And, now the hammerhead shark will save us. What is the worst? So now the number of people who were going out to fish during this and risking far more just increased, because now the narrative was that the hammerhead shark will just push you back to shore. And he said, you have to understand that hammerhead shark has no brain. So while it is pushing half the people in the direction
of the shore,
it's also pushing the other half side, into the opposite side, far deeper. So even if they could swim back, they can't. But as people, we live for hope. So we only remember the stories of success.
All right. Yeah.
Right? So we always just remember those dropouts who succeeded.
Fair.
We remember the people who made it really big. But the number of people, even in those industries, that just didn't manage to survive, we forget.
But I think we're also very selective about the success stories we tell. Right? Like, why isn't there a movie on Narayan Murthy? Right? Like,
I mean, that's debatable.
Or like Nandan. I mean, there's people who have built maybe not the sexiest companies.
Yeah.
But like transformational, like
boring businesses make the maximum amount of money. I think the sexy businesses look great, but they may or may not,
the most interesting to speak about, I guess.
Yeah. But
are there any movies on real estate, people?
No, not yet.
Only
not a good one that I know.
Only we work. We crashed. Sorry.
We crashed. Oh Lord. What a series. Good one.
Amazing. I just recommend to everybody.
I just cannot, as an entrepreneur, I cannot fathom that.
Happening to you?
No, not happening. God, of course, I don't want it to happen to me. But I'm saying I can't fathom that thought process.
Of abundance.
Of that delusion.
Yeah, I think
it takes a certain amount. I don't know if you need to be that deluded to
be
go
successful.
Big.
Yeah.
I think you need to be
Masa
a little
doesn't
bit
agree with you.
But you need to be a little bit realistic.
What's the right? So like, let's say you have to divide 100. So 50-50, 50 crazy, 50 realistic.
I don't know. I think it depends on everybody's risk-taking propensity also. I think that's such a subjective thing. Maybe you're a great entrepreneur whilst being risk neutral. Maybe you're a great entrepreneur whilst being, whilst having like a great risk-taking capacity. But
do you think you could send like rockets to Mars if you're not as crazy as Elon Musk is?
No.
Right. So for something as big as that, or as groundbreaking as that, you have to be a little bit delusional.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line then? Maybe his story is not yet over.
Yeah. No, for me, it's like my dreams are very holistic. right? So even the level of, I mean, I don't think I have any delusion, but I could be wrong. I think that's for other people to gauge. But I think that because my dreams are very holistic, I want more out of life than just innovation entrepreneurship, which means that I need to or want to, would like to spend time doing those things as well. So,
and they ground you.
Yeah,
those things ground you.
They ground me. They give me joy. I think they add value to who I am as a person. So I'm sure there are people who genuinely believe that they came to solve for something, or that is the purpose of their life. I think the purpose of life is just evolution of consciousness, and I don't think it can only come from work.
Fair.
I think you need relationships, you need, art, you need spirituality, you need these things to aid that evolution of consciousness.
In phases, yeah?
Yeah. So I feel like that amount of sort of craziness can maybe evolve you greatly in one facet of your life, but somewhere it will
at the
eat
cost
into,
of at the cost of others. Yeah, I mean, Elon would say that. Yeah, he's like, dude, I don't have a family.
Yeah.
Like at all. He brings his kids to like meetings with the president.
हाँ तो ये नहीं करना ना मुझे. मतलब, I'm so glad there are people like
But
him.
do you think he's living his maximum life?
Who is to say what maximum or great is for him?
For him.
What is your idea of a great life? Describe it to me.
And I think I'm still looking for it. For me, the meaning comes for me, and for now, my meaning comes from work, and from the line of work that I've chosen, which is education. And I feel like almost I'm like obsessed with changing it. Like I actually don't think about anything else. And I don't know if that's come across to you in any of our conversations.
It has.
Right? Like I will always end up gravitating towards that in any conversation, any thought.
Yeah.
Thinking about how the human brain learns and grows, etc. Right? So for now, that's where I'm driving meaning out of. But that's also because the rest of my life is quite well taken care of. Right? I have a very loving family, so maybe I'm not thinking about it too much because I have it.
Yeah.
Right. Health, like I'm not thinking too much about it because everything so far is all right.
Yeah.
So maybe things will change over a period of time. But right now, and I think it's unhealthy. Sometimes I do think it's unhealthy. Like today in the flight, there was no internet. I was taking a flight from Dubai to New Delhi, and it was spicy. And I had to take this flight because it was only timing. No, and generally I would try to take a flight which has internet so I can work through the flight and make it productive. But there was no internet.
But flight Wi-Fi is also very unpredictable.
You have to choose the airlines wisely.
Singapore was very like...
I try to use the Middle Eastern airlines as much as possible. They have, with $20, you can get quite good Wi-Fi.
चलो ठीक है.
So I try that. As in today तो नहीं हुआ. ठीक है. And 3 घंटा मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि मैं कितना डिपेंडेंट हूँ अपने फोन पे और अपने कंप्यूटर पे. बाय चांस कुछ रीडिंग मटेरियल भी नहीं था तो and I realized that I need stimulation every second, and if I don't get for 3 hours, so restless. I went to the bathroom 3 times. So okay, चलो बाल्टी कर लेते हैं.
You need to meditate a little bit.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm realizing that because I'm also getting brain rot. Like I'm forgetting things. I'm mumbling a lot more, and that's exactly this reason, right? Because I'm on my phone all the time.
Yeah.
My
I'm also guilty of being on my phone all the time. It's.
What's your screen time?
Ooh, not good.
Is it more than 8 hours or less than 8 hours?
No, less.
Oh, then it's okay. Then that's still borderline normal.
It's 6 hours.
Not great.
Yeah, not great.
Not great, but not too bad. I've seen much worse, and mine is much worse.
I want to get mine down to 4.
You think it's doable?
I think everything is doable. I need to set my mind to it.
Yeah.
Once I am very
But why
convinced,
haven't you done it yet then?
Because I have just procrastinated willingly. So
the prices on Dwarka Expressway have risen.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Very grateful. New project, Sanctuary. No, but
how do you name your buildings?
My dad names them.
Okay. Is there a pattern or like it's whatever you feel that day?
I think that for a few, he would have basically somebody who is a like numerologist tell him like what letters are good.
Interesting.
And then he would come up with words that can incorporate at least some of those letters.
Got it. So there is some vastu,
Yeah.
not vastu.
वास्तु तो खैर बिल्डिंग में
वो तो
होता
है.
है,
वो तो
प्लॉट में तो होना ही होता है, बिल्डिंग में भी
Is it selling
होना.
in India?
हाँ, तो वो तो बनाना ही पड़ता है. But I think his perspective more is that कि अगर कुछ जा नहीं रहा है तो कर लो types.
ठीक है, fair, हाँ, क्या जा रहा है?
हाँ, तो 30 साल तो चल गई ना.
हाँ, नहीं, fair.
ठीक ठाक तो.
Why fix something that's not broken?
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So, but that leads to some very fascinatingly long names that our own like folks, like our own people find
Is
hard
your
to.
name also numerology optimized?
No, my name was given, like the letter was given by Dada Vaswani, who was like a saint, and he said that I should be named with the letter B. And my mom used to spend a lot of time in the gurudwaras.
Bani.
So Bani.
Achha, so okay, that's in
So
Punjabi.
ba se, हाँ, Gurbani ka Bani.
Correct. So is it single A or a double A?
Single.
Was that also numerology?
No, nothing.
Achha, okay, sorry.
वो सिर्फ काम पे आता है ये सब.
Got it.
Business teacher चलना चाहिए.
Got it.
बाकी can be dealt with.
Do you believe in it?
I wouldn't. So if you told me that I had to make a building, I would name it as whatever. None of the things that I've started have had any astrological, numerological angle to it.
Got it.
I mean, I just have faith. So then I'm like, do whatever. How does it matter?
Fair.
I mean, if the idea is good, if you work hard, and if you're lucky with luck being a very sort of integral 33% according to me of the equation, it'll all work out.
33%,
huh?
Fair.
I think basic intelligence 33%, like
luck.
Extreme hard work and diligence 33%, and just random dumb luck 33%.
I think intelligence 10%.
Come on.
I think intelligence 10%.
Okay.
Can I add more variables?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
As many as you'd like.
Critical thinking 40%.
You would separate that from intelligence?
I think they're two different things. I've met a lot of very intelligent people who don't think critically.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. That means that like they're too sure of what they know. So they're not ready to even critically think themselves and their own points. But
wouldn't you have to be really intelligent to be self-aware too?
I can be a great, let's say, physicist. So I'm intelligent.
Okay.
I can ace SAT and GMAT. So I'm intelligent.
Yeah.
But I can be completely closed off to ideas.
Okay, fair enough. So, I'll give you that.
Right. So, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this.
Yeah.
There's a person in my mind right now as I'm speaking. His image is coming to my mind. 40, 30, 25% hard work, 25% luck.
ठीक है, I'll agree with this. मैंने एक ही umbrella में intelligence और critical thinking को
डाल
दिया, फिर इतना फर्क नहीं है.
फिर इतना फर्क नहीं है, but luck. I think you also create your own luck, right? So also, I mean, if you look at mathematics now, I think luck and hard work are also confounding variables. You know what I mean?
Same more.
So you create your luck basically. So if you're really hardworking, luck will favor you more often than not.
Of course.
In that sense, you know.
But from like a karmic point of view, if at all you believe in that, luck is also technically your karma, your past karma.
No, but luck is chance, right? If it's chance, then it's not dependent on karma.
No, luck for me, when I say luck, I mean fatedness, destiny.
Destiny, okay.
Right.
So then you're saying that it's determined by your
like
past.
Whatever I've done in the past is what life will throw at me.
So then it's not 33%.
Why?
Then if I've done, okay, so if I've done very good things in my life, then only it can impact that 33%.
Yeah.
Okay, not
and
okay,
then the rest of it is like the ball comes at me, that's the 33. How I throw it is the 66.
Understood. Fair.
Right? So the free will part is the hard work and the how I choose to utilize my intelligence, my critical thinking. And the ball that comes at me is the 33%, which is destiny, fate, luck, in my sort of...
You know, I've met this, the reason I mentioned critical thinking, you know, like in school, they would always say critical thinking, itne marks, SAT mein critical thinking, GMAT mein. And I've always been like, what is this critical thinking? Till the time I started working with this one person, I won't take his name, in my team. And I work with him very closely. And finally, after meeting him, I realized what critical thinking is, right? Which is taking a problem and really thinking critically about it. Now, I just use the same words again, but like breaking down the problem to its absolute core bottom line and then looking at each parameter, like how we just, you know, how we define success through these three parameters. And I think that was critical thinking. I think that's a skill. And people who are good at it, I think they have their life very, very easy. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. I think that's a very important skill to have. And in fact, I would argue I find fewer people who really want to hone this skill. Because there is a certain amount of humility you need to have for
Correct,
this.
yes. And when you're successful, to still have that humility,
Yeah.
that's the challenge.
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge.
Because the world is designed like that. You
Once,
know?
yeah, correct. चढ़ा देते हैं ना आपको.
वो चढ़ा देते हैं, फिर आपका दिमाग कभी तो घूमेगा, फिर आप सारी bad choices make करोगे, फिर उसके बाद you will come down. अरे इसका I'll tell you this story that Devdutt Patnaik had told me. So I've been interested in mythology, not as something that I'm a religious person, but just in as what you can take from it as storytelling. Let's take it as that, as qualified fiction. Let's not call it complete fiction. Let's not call it, anything but qualified fiction. So I sat with him earlier last year. We had a session for one of the Creda conferences, and I got to sit with him for 2 hours before that. And we were generally talking about, how he was telling me stories about Lakshmi and Saraswati. And he said that, and now there are many theories to this also, and I will rely on his expertise because obviously, if he's saying I believe it to be true. But he said that, they are known to be the notorious sisters. Now, of course, there are some arguments that say that they're not sisters, whatever. Let's just humor me and think that they are the two notorious sisters who never coexist.
Okay.
So if you look at all the ancient Indian imagery, you will never find not pictures on Google, but actually the sort of the art, the
engravings,
scriptures, the engravings, everything. You will never find Goddess Lakshmi and Goddess Saraswati together. And the reason for that was that, let's say that you have knowledge, which is what Goddess Saraswati stands for.
Interesting. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
And you keep building that knowledge. And you keep asking for more knowledge. And as you accumulate that knowledge, you will apply it. And hence, that will lead to a growth in wealth. Right? You will start to get money because you're now applying the knowledge that you've gained. As that money keeps coming in, you will start to feel arrogant. And hence, you will feel like you no longer need the knowledge because now you know enough. Because you've seen that jump. So that's when Goddess Saraswati says, okay, I'm done. You don't need me anymore. And then Lakshmi comes in and says, okay, enjoy this. And then you enjoy that phase of money in the absence of knowledge. But the problem is you cannot sustain it without the knowledge. So then you make really poor choices in that arrogance of money. You start to lose the Lakshmi. And then now you're starving for knowledge. So now you say, okay, Goddess Saraswati, please bless me because I need to know more. And the evolution kind of happens again. And that's when Lakshmi goes out and then Saraswati comes in. So the exception to this, however, there's a catch. The catch is that the only time they have been seen together is with Lord Vishnu. So if you can be someone who has his temperament, if you can really be from what, in Hindi we say, aap nar se Narayan ban jao. Like you have God-like qualities, where you have humility, you have tranquility, then you can keep both. However, that is hard to get to.
Got it. And is there a scripture where they're together with Vishnu? Like, is that
That's
exists?
the only time.
Where is this place?
It'll
be interesting to figure out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he told me. This is a year-old conversation. I think I took from it he's written something about it on the internet as well. But the source of this I don't know. But again, I'm placing the legitimacy of it on his knowledge. But yeah.
I mean, what this sparks in me is this thought that strong men create good times create weak men, weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men.
Yeah, true.
That same cycle.
Exactly that. But tell me something, what has been your worst sort of experience as an entrepreneur?
To be very honest, because of the soft landing that I can always bank upon because of my family, things have never taken a turn for an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Right. So nothing's been very bad, very honestly. I've made a lot of bad decisions. I've made a lot of bad hires. I've lost money in businesses, but nothing has been existential. So I'll preface with that. I started this one company called the Neta App.
I read about it.
Right. And it was an app like Zomato where you can literally just rate your politicians. Right. And I really thought that would change the world. I really thought that would change the world. And I was so convinced that if you had met me at that time, I would have convinced anybody, right? And I did actually.
Yeah.
I had so much conviction that accountability can be brought in with technology.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is the true voice of democracy.
as
The
a
fourth
true voice
pillar.
of, the fourth pillar. This app will basically, exactly,
Yeah.
will bring everyone in check.
Yeah.
And I realized what I did not realize is that that app requires a lot of human beings and a lot of stakeholders to change their fundamental behavior.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many internet users did it have at that point in time? So let's say if my data is correct, I'm told there are 1 billion people in India who use the internet.
Okay.
500 roughly would be in urban areas, 500 million in about rural areas. But I'm guessing for an app like that to be successful, you would also have to have a lot of people
See, the thing
using that app to be able to give you that truest picture.
See, if you look at statistics, and if you have a very large data set, then even 1 to 2% of that data set can give you good data and predictable data. So let's say it's 1 billion people.
Exit poll dekhe na hamare country ke?
I think exit polls are done with malintent.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story about exit polls also. It's very interesting. Okay, let's come to that actually.
Yeah.
So essentially with that data, what we were trying to do was do exit polling in a way, right? Because you have the ratings and then you can extrapolate the ratings to figure out exactly in which constituency who's going to win.
What was the monetization model?
There wasn't. That was another reason.
Okay.
But let me come to that. So I thought that, with all this data, I can actually predict elections. And that's why the politicians will care, right? And maybe I can sell that data to Times Now and Times of India and NDTV. And I actually struck a deal with one of them. I will again not name which one. I struck a very strong deal where the deal was that they will use my data come the election day.
Yeah.
Right? The election day came. And my data was saying something that did not suit their agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. So my data was saying
What year is this?
This is 2019.
Oh.
Okay. So my data, by the way, my data turned out to be wrong. So again, I'll preface that. But my data, even though I had a deal, said that party A is going to win.
Yeah.
But party B won.
Yeah.
So as per the deal, they had to use my data.
Yeah.
Right. But they said, your deal goes bhar mein, data goes bhar mein. We are going to use this data because this suits our narrative that we want to build.
Yeah.
Right. And so 1 hour before the exit polls were supposed to go live, they just cancelled my deal.
But they didn't pay you before.
No, I had paid them.
Yeah.
It was like a barter kind of a thing. Yeah. But I mean, payment aside, forget about the commercials of it. There was a deal. There was an understanding that I would give them so much advertising and then they will like carry my data and all of that. But so my point is that exit polls are completely driven by whims and fancies of whoever the chief editor is. So never believe them. And more often than not, they're wrong, right? So it's like 51-49.
So then you couldn't support the exit poll crisis.
Yeah. No, so I mean, my point is that I was overconfident with my idea. I was very convinced and I did not critically think about what I was doing.
What was the feedback that you got on it? Did you take it?
Yeah, it's very difficult to get good feedback or unbiased feedback. My mom said, Pratham, you're going to change the world. My dad said, beta, proud of you for doing whatever you've done so far. All the politicians were like, Hanji, to sir, chalna chahiye bilkul. Why not? My cousins around me, I mean, nobody wants to upset anybody. So they all usually say good things. They may say, okay, haan, aapko thoda aise kar lo, waise kar lo.
If I was friends with you, then main to bol deti, ye nahi chalega.
So I didn't, and that's again my fault to not surround myself with people who would critically analyze me, right? And nobody ever told me that.
I think also that's because you had just come from the US. I think maybe your version of India was slightly different from the India that you had come into.
Possibly. And I think I was too arrogant to even see that. That, dude, I've just come to India after like 10 years in the US. Give it some time. Understand the people. Don't put your American thoughts and ideas and apps. Like, don't throw them on the Indian public.
Yeah.
And the Indian public really gave me a tight slap because at the end of the day, the app had like zero retention, zero monetization. Everyone who basically used the app was like, unhappy about it because people who would leave their comments, उनके comments से कुछ अच्छा हो नहीं रहा था. ऐसा नहीं था कि politician देख रहा था वो comment बोलता चलो मैं अपना behavior सुधार.
हाँ, because it's not even technically like a social media platform like a Twitter or something where
there's no gratification. Yeah. For anybody.
There's no accountability either.
बस गाली चल रही थी.
But it's just data.
It's just data which is
still,
unclean.
हाँ,
It's not
क्या
even
करोगे
clean.
इसका?
A lot of people had started like figuring out ways to game the app. So there's a politician in South Delhi who was standing for MP election at that time. And what he had done was he had figured out a way to hack my API and just like keep giving himself like 5 stars. He could just keep doing that. And I couldn't fix it during the elections. So obviously my data was all corrupted. I'll be very honest. And so I was living in my
Oh,
fool's paradise
so
those
sweet.
6-7 months.
I feel so bad for you.
And I lost a lot of money.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that grounded me. As you said, Saraswati then came.
Yeah.
And then I reorganized, like, not just my business
Your thought process,
but also my life. Right? How to, a lot of self-doubt crept in.
But you know, I feel like every kid who comes from privilege should go through one really bad setback.
एक तो होना चाहिए.
एक तो लगना चाहिए. I think if you've not, I think one bad cycle in business, or like, you know, the times you have to think, how am I going to pay my, you know, the salaries.
Yeah.
You know, like ek bari, you need that
Fatka.
That one fatka you need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the way the world is designed, it's almost designed to make you feel like you're invincible. Whereas you know nothing.
Yeah.
You know, when you start out. Like हम लोग का, मैं ऐसे कोई रील देखी थी, उसमें ठीक है होता है कि day one somebody starts off in like, you know, this like small corner sort of space, and they're like, you know, we started like this, and one day mein, you know, just Diljit ka bhi tha na, day one and some small gig, and then one day is like stadium and whatever. And my head, I'm मेरा क्या होगा day one and one day का तो कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है. So of course, and these make for much better stories, but they are harder lives to live. So I'm very grateful for the life that I have. I wouldn't have it any other way, and you know, every day is still a great day. But I feel like, you know, when we went through a bad cycle in business, I think that was just so. It tested me enough for me to have that humility to say that, you know, you never know enough. You will never know enough. Such is just life. And two, things can just change overnight.
You know, so I went to boarding school, and in boarding school, most of the people there, because the fees was so high, came from a privileged background. And in the very first year, we were grounded, right? And when I say grounded, I meant like humiliated, physically, mentally, sexually, however you can possibly imagine, right? We were tormented, we were commented on, we were made to dance naked. We did all of those things. Then nobody knows this.
You were bullied by your seniors, basically?
Badly, right? There was this one time, and I love telling this story. This person now is a big Bollywood actor. He was the house captain at the time. I had just joined school, and the way he used to punish us was that he would literally hang us with our kurta pajamas on the pegs where we used to hang our clothes. Does that make sense?
But how could that take the weight of you guys?
Because kurtas have a separate collar, right? So the collar will not tear.
पर वो कितना भार ले सकता है?
हम लोग क्लास 7 में थे, 40-50 किलो के थे. We were very small and little. And that's the kind. And what that did for me personally was really bring me down to the ground. It like really, because in my little town of Jalandhar, I was like the hot shot in a way, right? I didn't have to make my presence felt anywhere. It was just there.
Yeah.
But now in school, when I was literally brought down to the ground, I was humiliated. My confidence was taken away from me. And then the school gave me the chance to rebuild my confidence. But this time on the basis of my own merit and not where I come from.
But do you think this is necessary?
No, it's not necessary. It worked for me. It also did not work.
You can romanticize it now because you managed to overcome it.
A lot of people.
Stories of success.
But I would say 80% success tha. This particular process ka. And then in the US also, there's this concept of pledging a fraternity.
Yeah.
You do that entire thing again for 3 months. You have to go through that cycle, which you see in like American Pie and all of these movies. Very real.
Yeah.
In reality, it's much worse. And that again grounds you. It's a reminder that, boss, you know, you're just one of us.
ये सब UK में नहीं होता है. वहाँ पे सब बहुत sweet होते हैं. मतलब my college experience was just outstanding.
But mine was also outstanding.
हाँ, मतलब ये सब नहीं था.
No, but in the US, you don't. you choose to join a fraternity. And I chose because it had been romanticized similar way to the way I'm romanticizing now. That boss, this will really help you. And this will form very strong bonds of brotherhood. And
frat boy.
Yeah, frat boy. And once you have faced peril together,
yeah,
you'll never forget each other. Right?
Yeah.
It's true, by the way. Some of my closest friends are from my high school and my fraternity.
Yeah.
So
all cliches are based on some truth.
So, 80% truth.
Yeah.
20%.
How have you arrived at this 80% number?
Just looking back at my batch.
This is anecdotal, basically.
Fully anecdotal. In my batch, there were 80 of us. I would say 60 are okay in life. Like they have come out unscathed. 20, I think they have been damaged. कुछ damage तो हुआ है, वो दिखता है.
वो बेचारे अभी struggle कर रहे हैं.
वो struggle कर रहे हैं. But yeah, I think success rate वैसे भी इतना ही होता है real life का भी. 100 बच्चों की क्लास में यदि आपके साथ humiliation ना भी हुआ हो, तो भी 20-30% का तो थोड़ा इसी रहेगा situation.
मतलब I think कि हम उस दुनिया में नहीं रहते जहाँ equality तो कहीं पे भी नहीं है ना. तो वो तो हम
uniformity तो नहीं है.
हाँ, कहीं में भी नहीं है. तो वो तो हम we can't achieve that ever. We'll have to live with the.
Yeah, I mean, Pulse can achieve uniformity.
It can bond people.
It can bond.
No, but tell me something. Like we're talking about lack of uniformity or achieving it. How do you make sure that you get the best outcome from your endeavors with your sort of students?
Yeah.
What do you do to make sure that, let's say, these experiences that you've had, एक तो वो ना हो, because ये कोई बहुत great तो नहीं है experiences. So what do you do differently in terms of the environment? And then what do you do differently in terms of making them feel equally equipped to handle life?
Okay. So I think I'll use the word nurture. Right. I think our schools and colleges and the education system does not do a very good job of nurturing people. Right. It does a very good job of teaching people and then testing people.
Fair enough.
Teaching plus testing is not equal to nurturing. Right. And I read this in a book that nurturing requires a similar kind of effort that a mother puts in when she's raising her child. Right? That's nurturing.
Yeah.
So school and college, actually, they have to start thinking like a mother. How do I nurture these kids? Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, there are 2-3 things that we do very deliberately. Right. So in the very first term, we have to give them confidence that they should have self-belief that they can achieve whatever they set out to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. So what we do is, in the very first term, we ask all of our students to build a small e-commerce business. Right? No frills, no branding, just build an e-commerce business. And in the very first week of doing that drop shipping, we call it drop shipping, they're able to make at least some money. Right? And this is the first time for many of them that they're making money not for their time, right? Not for a job or something, but actually being entrepreneurial. And as soon as that money hits the bank, I have seen students after students, batches after batches, their DNA completely change. They suddenly start believing in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to give them, you have to throw them a bone, which they can easily catch, and then feel confident, have self-belief for a bigger endeavor. So whenever you play a video game, the first level is easy.
Yeah.
It helps you build confidence.
Yeah.
हाँ मैं कर लूँगा.
Then you can catch the pulse of the market.
Yes, exactly. Pulse of the market, right? So students, when they get that confidence, that changes them as a human being. That's nurturing step number 1.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you know what F stands for in like A, B, C, D, like grades, right? What does F stand for?
Failure?
Failure, no. Actually, when this F grading system was like, whoever was coming up with it, F meant feedback.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
You got an F grade so that you can get feedback. Now we assume that it's failure.
Fascinating. I never knew that. Yeah.
Failure was never an option, actually.
Yeah.
It was always about feedback. Give the kid feedback. But we never do that.
But what is the rest? A, B, C. What is that?
No, it's like the grades were A, B, C. There was no D, E, F, G, H, right? So it was just A, B, C. That usually was the initial, you know. And F was for feedback. Right. And we've made it failure. So when you're telling someone that you failed at math, you've actually sucked out their potential love for math completely.
Yeah.
You've made them feel that, hey, I'm a failure at math. I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a huge disservice to students when you're nurturing them. You'll never see a mother telling their kid that they've failed at something. She'll always say, amazing. Mera beta to matlab raja beta hai.
Or
Right?
Neta App chalao.
Correct. But, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is
Parents
a good
are
thing.
supposed to do that.
I agree.
Right?
Completely.
But our school system takes it the other way around. School system does more to take away someone's confidence, not instill the confidence. And that's my philosophy of education. Find opportunities to build confidence in people. And education should not be about completing the syllabus, but building confidence in people so that they can then pursue whatever they want to pursue, limitless. Makes sense?
Yeah, makes complete sense. Though I would think that feedback, we should inculcate the idea of receiving feedback even if you are ABC.
No, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I think that what also happens, like taking from where we were talking about, like the arrogance or the why one needs humility,
correct.
is that critical thinking can only come if you are okay to receive feedback, because that will keep contributing to your growth as just a human being.
True.
So,
going back to the Vishnu example that you gave, that you have to have that demeanor of Vishnu, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I've met an extremely successful person, I've realized one common thread amongst all of them is that they're incredibly humble. Like, I've never met an extremely successful person that I look up to being arrogant.
Yeah.
That actually, like,
the middle ones are like that.
Yeah. I guess one who's actually, I've met more people at the bottom.
I'll show you something after this.
Okay.
That's going to blow your mind.
Okay.
And show you utter lack of humility. But that's only for off camera.
Okay, sounds good. I'm excited for it. I met Nitin Kamath once, I remember. Right, and I had invited him to my convocation. And I sent him a message at midnight on WhatsApp, cold DM. Complete cold DM. He hasn't heard of me. He doesn't know who I am, where I'm from, what do I do. Send him a message 12. That, I'd love for you to come at a convocation and I'm trying to do this. It was a long message. It wasn't even like optimized for WhatsApp. It was the same email that I sent him. I copy pasted on WhatsApp and sent.
Yeah.
At 6:30 a.m., I got a response from him. Why don't you come over to Bangalore and we'll discuss this in person?
Wow.
Right. And I was like, what? Like, who manages his WhatsApp? Someone else has to manage his WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then I met him, and then it was like a very casual room.
Yeah.
Where there were two sofas like this, and there was one stool.
Yeah.
Like that. So I obviously wanted to sit at the stool because I thought he'll sit here and his assistant, etc., whatever. He made me stand. He sat on the stool, and then like had a conversation with me as if like I have something to teach him. He asked me questions. He was so curious about what I'm doing. It was amazing. I was like, "Ye wahi hai na? Matlab, is he the same guy?" And then when he came for the convocation, by the way, he didn't know like he was coming. I mean, he knew there was a convocation, but I didn't think he understood the concept. So he dressed up in a t-shirt and came, and he drove the car himself through Bangalore traffic. And he was looking for a parking spot, so he got late. And then he came and he's like, "Oh, it's a convocation. I said, it's a formal affair. Shit, I didn't know. I had to prepare a speech. I didn't know." And he was so down to earth. Yeah. He was amazing. And I've had this experience with many, many people time and again.
I like these people. The ones who are open to feedback, the ones who
don't think very highly.
But वो ही ना, इनको भी कहीं ना कहीं कोई फटका लगा है कभी.
No, they didn't come from privilege. Na? They the son of soil.
So it's either that you don't come from privilege, but even the ones who don't come, even first gen can sometimes just lose their marbles.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But the second gen, to one fatka, I think everyone needs.
Yes. And what is that? First generation builds it.
Yeah.
What is it?
Second grows it.
Grows it, and third
loses
destroys
it.
Loses it. Yeah. Do you think that's true?
I would say that I'm sure there's evidence to support this thought process, but I think third tak sab trust fund ke khatam kya karoge? I mean, I don't know. Maybe people maybe it changes. I think all of it is very dependent on parenting. The more arrogant you are as a parent, the more you will transfer it to your child, or more likely you would be. That's not necessary, but more likely you would be. And then the more again, it's like.
No, but in the US, there is no concept of like transferring your wealth to the next generation, right? You stack so badly that you don't do it, right?
Yeah.
But in India, there is this family business, generation after generation. Do you think, like, which one do you think is, I mean, I'm using better in a loose sense.
Yeah.
Do you think that's American culture should come to India? Would you prefer one or the other? Okay, let me go to another way. What would you do for your kids? Would you transfer wealth or would you let them be?
If they're assholes, I'll give them nothing.
Okay.
Or just enough to survive.
But you're the mother. Do you think your kids would, like, would you ever think your kids are?
Yeah. I think you know.
You know.
You know. I think that I would give them enough, and I'll be honest, when it came to my parents also, up until very recently, we didn't even know what they had. They never disclosed.
Correct.
If they bought anything, if they had invested anywhere, nothing. These were not discussions that were had. What we were told growing up was that, we're going to pay for your education. That too, like, at least with me, I was the first kid who went abroad to study. First, they were like, at 18, get out of the house because you really need to acquire some life skills and you need to live alone. But you can get out only if for your course you go to the best college. Like, the ranking for that course has to be number 1 and the university has to be one of the, like, top 5, whatever. Otherwise hum paise waste nahi kar rahe tum pe. So, like, our parents, they never told us anything. The ideology was, like, very sort of simple. We've worked really hard to get here, to give you the best. And they were never, like, hard on us in the sense that it's not like,
do or die nahi hai.
हाँ, but they were also not कि कोई crazy हमें credit cards मिल रहे हैं पैसे खर्चने के लिए. I think it was fairly balanced, and I think my dad had kind of told us that if you guys are even remotely interested, then I need to believe you're good. Otherwise, I work too hard for this to come too easy.
To go to us.
Yeah. And that's
so you'd want to carry that same one.
Yeah, I would like to raise my children whenever I have them with the same ethos, which is that it takes a lot of work and don't be
but I always like see this difference in business families versus family businesses. Right? So a family business is when the family is doing the business.
Yeah.
And then a business family is where the family is on the business but not in the business. Right? So you're not like working with your cousin or your brother or your sister or your mother or your father like directly. So maybe you sit on the board and then there are like a group of professionals who run the business.
Yeah.
And in the US, like, I can't imagine Mark Zuckerberg's kid taking over Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? Or Steve Jobs' kid.
Yeah.
We don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
But in India, as soon as they turn 25, 26, we have to do the coronation. Right? And I wonder, like, are these businesses doing a disservice to their shareholders by bringing their kids? See, not everyone's kids will be great, na?
No, not everyone's kid is great. Not everyone is as talented. And I think the only reason they bring them on, of course, the angle of legacy comes from how passionately you would feel about that business, given that it's literally been all you have probably grown up listening, your parents talk about. So let's say how passionately you would feel. How passionately I feel about the business that my dad has built. I know that maybe there is nobody else other than me, my brother, because we work together, who would feel like that about it. No professional will feel that, like absolute do or die for it.
But then Coke wouldn't have been so successful. Microsoft wouldn't have been so successful.
Maybe. And maybe that's a failing in my thought process. And maybe there are people who, but it's also across many, many generations. Like we're still second gen. It's not gotten to a stage where, I feel like maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, it'll get to exactly where, you're saying. But I think that we're good, so I don't think it's a disservice to anyone. But
till the time you're asking that question of yourself, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But honestly, the day I feel like there's anyone who can do this better, I would have no problem.
I think it's easier said than done.
Maybe.
I think once your heart is in it, it's very hard to leave. But
I'm a very detached person.
Okay.
I find it very easy to leave things and move on.
That may be easier for you.
Yeah.
Has that changed over time, or have you always been like this?
No, it has.
Is it because of a fatka that this happened, or?
No. But because this is a detachment is a practice you have in life. It's not just work,
Okay.
right? It is who you are.
When did you realize that you were detached?
You know, I've always been this person. Like I would never. I'm not nostalgic as a person. I've never gone back to a house that we lived in before. It has never even
Just
crossed
because
my
of that.
mind to
No
go visit
keepsakes,
my.
no old watches, no old bags, old notebooks.
No.
Hmm.
Only things that my friends and loved ones have written to me if they're letters. Outside of that, no, nothing. I give it all away. I don't care. Like there was a house we used to live in, and then we moved out. I haven't been there since. And we still have that house, and my parents, still
Visit.
because they have some emotional sort of this thing. I'm just like, हाँ नहीं रहते बेचो मतलब. पर मुझे वो नहीं है. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मेरा काम जो भी मुझसे बेहतर कर सकता है वो ये कर ले, क्योंकि कोई तो काम ऐसा है जो मैं भी किसी से बेटर कर सकती हूँ और फिर मैं वो कर लूंगी.
You were asking me earlier about my learnings and like things that I've done wrong.
Yeah.
I think the first 10 years of my professional life, I thought that only I could do it. And nobody would care for my first company, Outgrow and Neta App, as much as I would. But I realized that that's almost never true. Because there is somebody out there who can do better digital marketing than you.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. Exists, right?
No, skill-wise, that's what I'm saying. The minute somebody can do it better than me.
But then you have to always be looking.
But I think we're all always looking. I would love to find someone
to replace you.
Yeah.
Okay. But are you looking actively for that person? Or are you just waiting, okay, if like it happens, it happens?
I've not found some. I mean, it's not that I haven't looked. Like even with All About Eve, I would love to find someone who can do whatever it is that I do. Not that I do everything, but whatever it is that I do better than me. I haven't found that yet, but I would love to. And the day I do, I love the idea of value creation. Right? I'm okay to move on to the next thing. कुछ और बनाएंगे.
Keep the podcast.
नहीं और बनाएंगे, कुछ नया करेंगे. कुछ नया बिजनेस की अपॉर्चुनिटीज तो एंडलेस हैं यार, जहाँ कुछ भी बना सकते हो आप.
In our office when you enter, बड़ा बड़ा लिखा रहता है वहाँ पे कि not the campus that you've been to, but the office that where we all sit in. Like make yourself redundant today.
Yeah.
And then move on. Right? Yeah. Otherwise you'll just like.
But even with our parents, and I was thinking about it. I would think that if somebody told me that you are exactly like your dad, I would not take that as a compliment in business. Because I feel like who he was served a particular time of that business, of the tenure of that business. But what the business might need after 30, 35, 40 years of existence cannot be that.
Yeah.
So I think that as entrepreneurs, we have to be extremely, of course, respectful. If, like in my case, I do work. I work for my dad. I wouldn't even say with that, to work for my dad. But I'm saying that, in that, you have to keep in mind that whatever it is that even they have done, you have to be extremely sort of respectful of it. You have to understand how they built it, but also you have to outgrow it. You have to have it in you to not be the same person. And at times maybe it requires you to have more risk-taking ability. Maybe at times it requires you to actually rein in their sort of risk-taking capacity and say, okay, no. Little bit of preservation before we, kind of take this risk again. So I think that is also important. I think outgrowing
your parents.
Yeah, is your parents just in general also is important.
It's do you have heroes?
No.
Do you follow anyone? Do you look up to someone? You want to be like that?
I want to be the best version of myself. I think she's good enough.
I think I'm stuck in that loop for some reason of chasing to be someone and not being comfortable in who I am. And when you were talking about the previous point, that's all I could think about. And at one point, I actually sort of like completely tuned out. And I was just thinking that I'm totally not comfortable Like I'm always trying to, uh, be like Narayan Murthy or be like Sachin Tendulkar or be like Karan Johar, be like whatever, whoever
Yeah.
has, whenever I see like a positive news about someone winning the World Cup, someone's company IPOing, whatever,
Yeah.
right? The first thing is like, okay, I need to be that. And if I'm not able to be that in my own field,
Yeah.
then I'm like less. And that, even till now, I would say like it sort of consumes me and takes over my thought process. And then I feel like sometimes guilty that I'm not doing the work that I'm doing for the right reasons. I'm doing it for what comes with it and not for it.
But yeah.
Um, and will that make me take a wrong decision at some point in time? Will I just do something for the money or for the fame or for the IPO or for the World Cup or for it, right? And not for the actual true love for it. And then that's been something that's been on my mind, and it just got triggered again as we were talking. I don't know if it's the right thing or wrong thing. This hero obsession.
I think that, I mean, you're not the only one who kind of has it. I think in general, we all want someone we can look up to. For me, I've settled, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I like who I am. I'm knowingly very critical of myself. So I know that the day that I will only endeavor to be the best version of myself. So I actually, and this may be even very counterproductive, don't care what anyone around me is doing.
That's amazing.
It just doesn't matter to me.
That's detachment.
Yeah. So if somebody comes and says, oh, this person sold at XYZ and it's like more than you, and I'm just like, but I'm doing well. Of course, if they're doing something new and exciting, I would love to do that. I would take inspiration from it. But let everyone make money. Let everyone do well. I really couldn't care less.
But in my head, I get competitive.
Yeah, I do. I used to be that person. I think I was sickly competitive. And it did me no good.
Yeah, it just adds to the stress.
Yeah. And then I'm just like, why? But life is more than just this one. It's so much more than just this. And I think slowly it just requires a perspective shift. But the fact that you identified was also amazing because most people wouldn't.
I'm not able to get out of it, and I'm trying to get out of it, and yet I think it's now. I think after you're 34, your neurons are quite well set, and your motivations and your incentives in your head behave a certain way.
Who was the last person you wanted to be like in this hero list?
Okay, so I actually picked up a book in the Dubai airport today, which is My Life by, I don't know if it's autobiographical, but it's biographical. Sheikh, let me try this if I can get this right. Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum Al Maktoum.
Okay.
Right? I think I got it wrong. One of the Al Maktoum is pehle and Rashid is baad mein, aisa kuch hai. But he's the current ruler of Dubai.
Okay.
Right? And he basically inherited this state which had no oil, unlike everybody else around him that had oil.
Yeah.
He had absolutely nothing. And yet he created something so valuable in Dubai.
Yeah.
Where the Al Ain and Ras Al Khaimah and Abu Dhabi couldn't, even though they were way richer. And in the beginning of the book, right, there is this one questionnaire kind of a statement where tell me which is this country. Okay. This country has absolutely no fresh water. It has a huge piracy and theft problem. Okay. 90% of the people miss a meal or miss 2 meals in a day.
Yeah.
Okay. Extreme poverty. Nothing can be grown on this land. There's absolutely no university, school, college. What country is this?
I would never think it's UAE.
Yeah. So basically, most people would think that it's Somalia.
Yeah.
Right. Or, but this was UAE or Dubai specifically.
Yeah.
In the year 1999 or 1989.
Yeah.
Right. And in 30 years, they have completely changed the country.
Yeah.
Right. With no natural resources as such of their own.
Yeah.
No fresh water, no vegetables, no orchards. And I was like, shit, this guy really created something.
Yeah.
That the entire world is flocking to.
Yeah.
Out of nothing.
Yeah.
And that really inspired me a lot. So that's the one guy. Yeah. I'm like, dude, I think if India could get one of those visionaries, and I really feel that some of our leaders are, if we can get more of those and we can create some mini Dubais or macro, bigger Dubais in India. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
And somewhere in that flight, in that zone I was in, I wanted to be that hero. I wanted to be that person.
Yeah.
I don't know why. What will I get out of it? But something was like gnawing at me.
Yeah.
Karna, tu kar.
I'm sure Pratham is good enough anyway.
No, but it's those
Yeah.
comparisons in your head.
I mean, of course, and I don't think anyone can escape them. I think वो तो किसी को भी देख के लगता ही होगा कि यार, wow, this is just so sort of not just fascinating, but how revolutionary are some of
No,
these
that's
things.
admiration.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's okay.
Admiration is okay, but
Yeah.
I think I take it a bit too far. I
Yeah.
think my admiration almost becomes jealousy. That's not healthy.
See, but now you recognize it, so you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Imagine if you never recognized it. That would be dangerous. Then
Right.
you would just be a very jealous person.
Yeah, that's where
That's
heart
not a
attacks.
great place
That's where
to
heart
be
attacks are happening all over.
Yeah.
the place.
So just you recognize it,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can fix it.
It was a good therapy session. I feel like I spoke out loud things I've not said in my therapy sessions.
Happy to help in whatever way I can.
It's
That's
the
why
lights.
it's good.
It's the lights.
It's the lights. Okay, tell me, Pratham, how do you unwind after hours? What do you do to relax? You've had a long day. You've just flown in, caught a flight with no internet, and then felt like you wanted to be the person who just kind of changed the face of Dubai. So now, tell me, what do you do to just relax when you're not stimulated enough?
No, I need to tune out. So around 10, 9 to, between 9 and 10, I reach my room, right? And then I would either switch on TV. Currently, it's Lincoln Lawyer.
Okay.
It's amazing. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And then literally watch the show myself to sleep. I think that's currently that's the plan for tonight.
Yeah, I don't watch anything at night because if I'm too stimulated, I can't sleep. Also, screen time.
I'm given but I need to change my life. Like I understand I have to go work out a lot more. I have to shut my TV before at least 2 hours before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
I have to eat healthy. I eat out a lot. It's also not a good thing. Those are the things that I do to unwind right now. Eat out, have bubble tea.
You're one of those, the bubble tea lovers.
Oh, I love bubble tea. I don't know why.
Oh my god. There's a whole category of people who love bubble tea, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they
I
nice
would
people?
never have imagined the Jalandhar boy to be a bubble tea lover.
No,
Sweet.
Jalandhar boy, when I went to the US, I was like, oh,
yeah.
So, bubble tea, and then, that's after us. But I have to change it. I'm not proud of it.
Chalo, I'll tell you some books to read. If
Send
you
me
like.
a podcast. No one has time for a book. Send me I'll take the book and I'll upload it to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to give me 10 points that I need to remember.
No, but thank you for coming.
No, of course, thanks
I
for
had
having
a
me.
great chat. It's always lovely chatting with you. And
Likewise.
of course, I'm going to see you soon. But yeah, thanks for coming and I hope you had a good time.
Yes, absolutely. This was stimulating.
Stimulating and therapy. I don't know. Where are we in between the two?
I think both can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think you did a good job balancing it.
Love it.
They can exist. They can coexist.
They can coexist. Yeah. Did you enjoy the pulse?
Yeah, actually, I think maybe it got cut, but I've had like 3 of them already.
Thank you, Pratham. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise.
And I'm hopefully, obviously, going to see you super soon. But we actually have a little present for you.
Oh, awesome.
Which is a lifetime supply.
Oh, thank you.
Of lots of candy.
Oh, awesome. Pulse is like my favorite.
Yeah? I'm
absolutely.
glad. So now you can take this and munch on this while you watch your show.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.